Today's theme is Happy Good Friday.
Happy Good Friday.
There you go.
Well, okay. Happy Good Friday. Sharon Mwangi, Faith podcast host and a digital content creator. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Bwana sana.
Bwana asifiwe.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're fixing the nation one conversation at a time. And I know that's the same thing that you do. You fix the nation on your podcast, one conversation at a time. You'll be telling us all about what you do.
Yeah.
But it's a Good Friday. It's a season for us to reflect on what faith means, especially for those, not only the Christians, right? It's for all. What does faith mean? What's faith to you? There are many who have no issues of faith. But let's start with the word.
The word.
The name of the quote.
Every day on Fixing the Nation, I share a quote. And I was trying to figure out today, you know, because I know we have such a wide demographic of audience, but I just thought to myself, it's Easter. I think it's okay to center hope and faith in Christ today. And so, be still and know that I am God is the quote that I picked for today, clearly.
I can see on your
sweatshirt. Psalms 46:10. And I just want to throw that back to you, Sharon. What does that quote mean to you, especially in this season of your life?
Being still. That's such a great question. I think being still for me is just recognizing that God is God. And I am a human and I have limited capacity, but He is not limited. So when challenges come, when things happen, because life will always life. Life will always life. So I'm just being still and I'm just recognizing that, okay, God, you are God. So you do the God thing that you do, and I'm just gonna be still.
Okay,
yeah,
that's powerful. I think the reason why I was telling the team that I wanted to have you on here is because I've been following your podcast, and I realized the switch. And we'll talk about your podcast and how it evolved. But I realized that for your last season, you said, no, now we're going fully faith.
Yeah,
you know, and that caught me because it kind of spoke to this lukewarm sort of space that a lot of people of faith find themselves in. And you were saying, no, I'm no longer doing this lukewarm thing where I'm trying to be comfortable for some people, but comfortable for God. This next season is fully faith-based. But take us through the evolution of Best Kept Secrets podcast.
So Best Kept Secrets was not my idea. I never wanted to have a podcast. In fact, I remember someone asked me in 2020, Sharon, would you ever get on the podcast space? It seems like it's popular right now. People are really getting in there. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good on Instagram. I'm good. I just have no desire. Also, why am I trying to do something that everyone is doing? That was exactly what I told her. And then the next year, God tells me, okay, Sharon, I need you to start a podcast. And I'm like, God, you must be joking because I don't want to do that. And He kept impressing it in my heart. You know, when people say, God told me, you really think that God came in your bedroom, He sat on your bed, He told you, Sharon, go start a podcast. That's not what happened. It's just an impression in my heart. Suddenly, I started having that desire, that the thought of having a podcast started being so strong in my mind. And I'm like, this cannot be from me because my desire is to not have a podcast. I was like, okay, God, sawa, I'll do it. But how? You know, what do I do? How do I do it? And from the beginning, we were supposed to be a faith-based podcast. From the very get-go of when God placed it in my heart, it was always supposed to serve Him. But then me, in my humanness, in my humanity, I decided, okay, God, I hear you, but I'm going to go do me with a little sprinkle of God. So that's what the podcast was. It was me with a little sprinkle of God. And then last year, I just felt convicted and I just felt like, okay, God is the one who gave me this platform. He gave me this thing. Why am I not using it to fully glorify Him and fully speak about Him the way He desires for me to speak about Him? So that's what we did. I was just like, okay, no more playing games. Even me, I can't just be like the Israelites and just fighting God and running away. And I was like, I need to grow up. I need to be mature in, my faith and just say, okay, God, you told me to do this. I'm going to do it exactly how you told me to do it. So that's how we evolved to where we are now. Yeah.
Where are you now?
Where we are now, we are fully a we're fully a faith-based podcast, meaning all of our conversations are rooted and centered in Christ. We do this podcast to glorify Christ, to offer some sort of guidance, because a lot of young people are confused, they are lost. They're not going to church. We'll get into that. They're not going to church for reasons I understand. So, they're looking for information, they're looking for God, and they're looking for it on the internet. They're looking for it on the podcast. They're looking for it on YouTube, and all of these things. And there are also a lot of people lying to the young people. So we just want to give biblical truth with personal experiences. So a mix of personal experience while rooted in Christ and biblical truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paint for me the difference in the picture here. When you were doing Sharon with a sprinkle of God,
Yeah.
how different is it from what you're doing now? What are you preaching now? Are you doing Bible study? Are you saying now today we are going to look at Psalm 46, and you go verse by verse.
Yeah.
There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. This is what it means. What's the difference?
So the difference is, in the beginning, our first maybe 3-4 seasons was there was a couple of episodes that were very God-centered, and then others that were just nothing to do with God. Yani, God doesn't even come up in the conversation. We are just talking about other things. So now the difference is that, yes, we're still talking about personal, real life things, right? But with the root of it being God. So God is always glorified in whatever we speak about. Before, we were glorifying other things, we were talking about other things, but God was never there. Does scripture come up? Yes, it definitely does. Because at the end of the day, that should be our guiding light for anything that we do. So, yeah.
I want to come back to some point about what you mentioned, which is why young people are either facing church hurt or they're just jaded by the faith. But let's go a little bit back in terms of how you even came to be this. Because you were, I think from the conversations I've seen you had, you liked your parties, you were having your fun times.
Ooh.
And then suddenly there was a transformation. Who was Sharon pre-Best Kept Secret Pod?
It's not even Sharon pre-Best Kept Secrets. It's Sharon pre-Christ. And even during Christ, to be honest, because I think some people think that when you get saved, when you get born again and you give your life to Christ, suddenly you're holier than thou. I was born again, and I was still struggling with sin. I was still in the club. I was still doing things I shouldn't have been doing, and God was convicting me very hard about it. But again, my flesh was winning. But before Christ, I gave my life to Christ maybe 8 years ago, 2017. So that's 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Before 8 years ago, Sharon was a screw up. Like, she was just like living wildly. I did not care for a God. I didn't even think God, maybe he exists somewhere, but me, I don't have anything to do with him. I don't even care. I wasn't even thinking about a God. I was just a very hurt child who developed into a hurt teenager and then a hurt young adult, and I was just living my life with so much anger and so much rage, and I was so lost. I was so confused. I was depressed. I was, on the surface, it looked like I was just a young adult having fun, partying, drinking, all of these things. But at the core of who I was hurt. I was really hurt. And God took me out of that deep, dark place, because it was dark. Imagine people who you think are really having fun and having the time of their lives, when they go and it's quiet and it's just them, they are really struggling. Yeah.
Because they have to hear themselves.
Exactly.
You sit with yourself. Do you sit with yourself, Eric? Because I love this thing of calling yourself to a meeting.
I'm always with myself.
Okay.
I don't leave myself behind.
You don't leave yourself behind. Your mind, though, does it go to places where you're like, I'm putting that conversation on hold? Or do you confront the difficult conversations that are going through your mind?
The easier
depends on the day.
Yeah, the easier route is just to put it on hold. I'm a very good procrastinator. Just
deal with it later.
Deal with it later. Saizi bana. Can I just breathe?
Yeah.
Can I just be?
And then the later comes by with some serious force and says, later was yesterday, my friend. Peter. So we have to deal with it. So yeah.
Yeah. I think COVID is when I first had a very, very jarring conversation with myself. First of all, the world was quiet. And remember, there were so many things that were going on in my head and my heart, and I just kept, you're too busy to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I remember I put my sons to bed one day, and I was just like, today we are sitting with ourselves. And from that day, it's like I've never been able to not hear myself. Some days I'm like, okay,
enough.
Just for today, just give me a break.
Yeah.
But what it did help, and I think that's what I'm still processing, is I had to confront what I've been trying to run away from, whether it's shame, whether it's guilt, whether it's trauma. It all just came. Now all of them came around the table, and they're like, tumefika. And just when I think, oh, I'm done with you, cool, I can leave you behind. 2025, they're like, what's up? Happy New Year. You still didn't finish dealing with me. Are there still parts, some days that you say, some things are showing up. I didn't think they'd be showing up now. And how do you navigate that?
Oh, 100%. Just last week in therapy, I learned something new about myself, and I was like, I thought I dealt with that. Turns out I haven't. Turns out I still have a lot. But I think when I found Christ, or when Christ found me, because it was more of him finding me, I wasn't really looking. When he found me, I was broken, and I feel like I have evolved to some sort of wholeness. And that wholeness also comes with me accepting that I have flaws, accepting that I will never be fully perfect. Never. No one was ever perfect, just Jesus. I will never get to the point where I'm just like, yeah, now I'm fully healed, I'm great, nothing will ever trigger me. I'll always be a perfect Christian or a perfect person. I won't. I'll mess up. I'll talk to someone badly. I'll have moments for sure. What I try to do is not linger in the guilt so much, because I think that's what happens. People, when you mess up, people linger in the guilt, and that's a very dangerous place to be, because you have the potential to just go back. Yeah.
The Bible talks about teaching them the ways when they're young, right? So they grow up in the ways of the Lord. And for many people, they'll tell you that, church was force.
Yep.
It was not negotiable. It's Sunday, get up, we're going to church. And that has evolved over time, such that nowadays, not many people are going to church. So not many children are being taken to church. Let's talk about your own journey. Your own upbringing. What was your first interaction with church? And how was it, and how long did it last? Or, in terms of going to church, just going to church so that you can tick the box, it's Sunday. Going to church as a social place where you're going to meet, it's Sunday, that's what we're doing for youth, choirs, and going to church.
Okay. So my parents gave me the foundation, right? They give me the roots. That scripture that you're saying, teach them the ways of the Lord. So they took me to church. My dad, more than my mom, especially, he was very about, like, it's Sunday, everyone wakes up, you get dressed, and we go to church, and we're not going to be late. We arrive on time. So I went to church growing up, and my mom keeps telling me this story where in NPC Karen, which is now CITAM, there are the hymn books that are always on the rows, right? So I would, every single time we go and sit in a different row, I would write in the hymn book, this is property of Sharon Mwangi, and I'm going to be like Pastor so-and-so, the pastor of the church at the time. And my mom is just like, why does this little child keep saying that she wants to be a pastor? That's so, like, wild. So I didn't even know. I think I was about like 5-6 years old, so I don't even remember any of that. But I loved going to church. I did the Christmas carols. I stood at the front. I did Sunday school. I loved Sunday school. My dad's family, some of them were teaching Sunday school. My aunties were teaching Sunday school. So I loved that. Then when I went to high school, and I think I evolved into an even badder girl. I used to go to church to meet boys, to be honest.
It's a social place.
Yeah, it's a social place.
Cool. Yes.
Yeah, and then
nobody will question.
Exactly. I was raised in a very strict environment, so church would be the only place where I had to socialize with other people my age other than school, and I'm in an all-girls school, so obviously I'm not meeting any boys. So during now church, as a teenager, it was just, okay, after youth service, we go up on my tent, I talk to some boys, we do whatever, and then I go home. So church now evolved to, I'm not even here to hear the word, I don't even care about the word, I'm just trying to meet that cute boy. And even when I'd meet boys during functions in school funkies, I'd tell them, meet me in this church on this day during midterm. We meet at CITAM at NPC Karen, because that's the only other place I was at. That was the only place I was allowed to meet anyone. And then in uni, I barely went to church. I even forgot churches existed. I was just living my best life. And now I'm so happy that even as a Christian, because I gave my life to Christ 8 years ago, but even then I wasn't going to church. I only started consistently going to church last year. I was officiated as a member of a church last week. So it's been a journey, and I was also in the same mindset of si lazima, you can just watch the service at home, you can watch the live stream. No. There is a space. It's important for us to fellowship with other believers. Community is a thing that holds us together in faith. Yeah.
I like that you've talked so organically about, I think, a journey that a lot of people grapple with. Now, more people feel like there's a sense of the church has let me down. The church has let us down. When we look at the country, even yesterday when we were having a conversation with somebody who speaks on ethics, and I remember Mariam asking a very pertinent question where she said there are people who weaponize the church and weaponize faith. And so there's a lot of that conflict within. How do you speak to people about that? Because it's valid, right? You see people who are on their knees receiving Christ, but then they literally are hurting you and your existence.
Yeah.
How do you talk to younger people who are just like, nah, man, I'm lost. I don't believe these guys. I think it's all in their head. I don't believe in the word. How are you able to, within your faith, still hold space for those who feel let down by the word and by church? So
I was there. I was also those people who was just like, I don't want to be in church. I don't care for church. And my other Christian friends would be like, no, it's important. And I was like, the way you guys are just being lied to over there, I don't want any parts of it. I don't care for it. I'm just going to worship God in my house. So I get that. It's valid. And I think a lot of people are misusing the pulpit, and they're misusing the place that God has placed them. And my thing, the thing that gives me comfort with that, there's a scripture in James that says that not everyone should be teachers of the word because they will be judged harshly. Teachers of the word are going to be judged harshly more than us, because God gave them the mandate to go and speak to his people, right? So if you go and you misuse it, you abuse it, the judgment that is waiting on you, it's so harsh. It's really harsh. So that gives me comfort. Anytime I see any pastor, any preacher doing some crazy stuff, I'm like, you, ujui, what is waiting for you over there? Do you think they know? Do you think they know, or are they, will some argue and be like, you know, maybe they're just going through deliverance, maybe they just need to get to the other side? Do you think people are aware when they're abusing the pulpit? I think some, I think it's twofold. I think there's some who are there and wolves in sheep clothing, and they're intentionally misleading people, and they're using it for their own gain. They're using it to make money. They're using it to have fame and success and all of these things. Again, judgment is going to be very harsh. And then there are people who are misleading people, but they don't know they're misleading people. They're misquoting scriptures or all of these things, and judgment is still going to be harsh, but I don't know. I can't speak for God in that area, but so that gives me some sort of comfort. I know even if you're doing it on earth, in heaven it's going to be a different story. What do I say to young people? I understand church hurt. I validate church hurt, but my thing is, did God hurt you or did people hurt you? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we go to church to worship God. We don't go to church for the pastor or for the worship team or for whatever. We go to church for God. So if God hurt you, by the way, go take it up with him. God doesn't mind being asked questions. I think also the way we were brought up, we were told that God is this big guy in heaven and he's scary. You dare not ask him questions. No. If you feel like God hurt you, ask him some questions and say, okay, God, may I feel hurt? Why did you do this thing? Why did you allow this thing? And if it's human beings, people on the pulpit or someone in church that hurt you, that's okay. That's not like, it's fine. Go to church regardless, because you're there for God. You're not there for other people. Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk about now the younger generation, the majority of Kenyans, and how they view religion. Okay. So church, religion as a whole, I like all those things you're saying. Looking at it and feeling jaded, wondering, okay, is this what really church is all about? Seeing that, do I really want to engage there? But there's a certain age group that is very strong in that. Yeah. And then something happens, life happens, and then they start, okay, coming back towards church.
Life is lifing, and then they start coming back towards church.
But now a majority of our Kenyan audience is in that space where they are. Maybe in another 20 years' time, all of them will be in church strong. But we're having a conversation with Sharon Mwangi. Sharon is the podcaster for Best Kept Secrets. Where do you find it?
YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, literally everywhere on the internet.
Bas.
Yeah.
And so she's a digital content creator, believing boldly the new phase of youthful faith. Back shortly. Good morning. So remind us our quote for today.
It's be still and know that I am God.
And I'd asked you to get us there.
Imagine in our 9.
Let me do it.
Okay, Sawa.
Let me do it.
Please.
So it's Psalm
46:10.
Verse 10. So I'll start from Psalm 46 verse 7, going all the way to 11. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. This was the psalmist basically just writing this one, saying, for the director of music of the sons of Korah. Okay.
The book of Psalms is beautiful.
Lovely.
There's a lot of feedback coming in, by the way, for this particular conversation. Miss P says, I like what Sharon said with the sprinkle of God. I think most Kenyan Christians are living like this, me included. Then you'll come full circle and realize there's a missing part, intimacy with God. Smallest ever, he has been saying this over and over again. He's one of our main fixers. He's ever present. He said, I said the other time on WhatsApp Nation that we should introduce our children to God. Wase, replay the clip. Today being faith and hope. We'll see if we can. Probably not. We'll see if we can play it soon. Paul Miner, kudos, Sharon, for fixing people's faith through your podcast. It's inspiring to see young people actively involved in matters of faith. Digital Dust Africa say, God didn't hurt you. The church did. But how unforgiving are we such that we've not been able to forgive the church? I got that perspective today. Interesting. Paul Miner is also saying, Janet, I love your hoodie. It's so dope. Nipoa, Kambua gave me this. Kambua is another woman of faith, dope, musician, friend.
Lovely.
It was a very nice gift. Now, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works for another comment here. Alex Moyori says, but you know what? There's a rise of atheism culture in Kenya. More and more Kenyans are identifying as atheists. We'll end up in a few years as an atheist nation like Estonia. The atheist society in Kenya is growing. Yeah, it speaks to that duality, right? Where there's a huge growth in faith, and then there's a huge growth in anti-faith.
Yeah.
It seems like a strange time, but I tend to try and just be present and try and hear where everyone is coming from without being derailed. I'm sure you don't struggle with that per se now, but I think a lot of people sometimes are caught in. I was earlier on telling Sharon and Latif I'm in my lukewarm era, right? Even though I'm be still and saying all those things.
You're at some point where you're like...
a little bit, and
You still have the core.
I do have the core. And sometimes I'm so, because 2022 I feel like was a moment when that was literally the first time I feel like I can confidently say that was God. Because I was sitting at the edge of my bed. I'd just gone through a very traumatic experience. And he said, come to Karura. So I was so confused because I'd never gone to Karura for a walk ever. So I was like, who said that? He's like, come, even bring the boys. And I went. Anyway, long story short, I felt like it was quite a moment. And I remember him saying, you've given so much of your faith to men. Like you've put so much of your faith in people, that's why you're here stressed crying. So that was very surreal because I hadn't prayed about nothing. It was just a voice in the forest. So it was very much like a... but since then it's been lukewarm hot, and I grapple with it. I don't know, I feel like this is therapy.
Voice in the forest?
What do you think?
A voice in your head, Janet?
No, it wasn't in my head. As somebody who is who's always such a pragmatic, I'm a very practical person. I'm like, this is how things go. I need facts, I need data. That one defied all of that. So that's why I was like, there's no way this was not God. You were going to ask something.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is your definition of being lukewarm? Because maybe you're not lukewarm and you think you are. So what would you define as lukewarm?
Wow, I think understanding what it means to be a practicing Christian. The discipline. He makes fun of me saying every week I come with a quote about discipline. And understanding, discipline, discipleship. It's very intentional living.
Yeah.
Everything from how you live, what you say, what you listen to, and not to torture yourself, but as a way to really surrender yourself fully. I know that means that you're fully hot for. Lukewarm is when you're dabbling in between. Today you're doing one thing, you know that it borders on lukewarm because it's not rooted fully in faith. So I think that's where I am. That's why I know it's lukewarm. I'm like, you're being lukewarm because you know what it means to not be lukewarm.
Yeah.
And so I'm aware that I'm grappling. I think it's just a matter of, okay, let's just keep unpacking why you keep yo-yoing between lukewarm and hot.
Yeah. Where would you place yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm deeply rooted in faith. What I just don't do is I do not, practice it the way I was brought up to practice it, to go to church, fellowship and all, because getting there and then you're just mixing up with different interpretations of faith. So my practice of faith is me, God, we speak. I hear the voice. I don't know whether it's in the forest or wherever I am, but I hear it constantly. And I'm constantly like, everything. I'm just saying, all right, so God, here, what's up?
Okay, I get that. I think I also, for a long time, felt lukewarm as well. And I started to do my research and try to understand, okay, so what does being lukewarm actually mean? And I saw this sermon and the pastor was saying being lukewarm is when you have a wedding ring, so clearly you're married, but then you present yourself out there like you're not married. Wow. So everyone can tell, by the way, this is a married person. They have a wife or a husband out there somewhere, but you're doing things that don't make it look like you're married. But at the end of the day, you go back home to your wife or your husband and you act like, we are still married, right? So that's what I started to see. That's what I started to understand as my interpretation of being lukewarm. So I would present as a Christian sometimes, but then some other things I'm doing, I'm like, hey, God, hey, like, I know I said I'm a Christian, but this is not really giving Christian. But for me, I think the biggest thing for me, it's not even just really about the do's and the don'ts. Don't do this, don't listen to that, don't do that. It's just about the posture of your heart. It's just about where does your heart stand, even as you sin, because we're always going to be sinners. We're always going to mess up. Again, only Jesus was free of sin. We're always going to sin. But what is your posture when you sin? When you get to the point where you sin and you sleep peacefully at night, by the way, you're not bothered. You're not bothered at all. That's when I would say you're lukewarm. But when you sin and you have the conviction, meaning the Holy Spirit is speaking to you, God is speaking to you and is telling you, Apo ulikosea, and you actually make changes towards not doing it anymore, I would say that you're on the way to being on fire for God. Like I said, I've been born again for 8 years, and in those 8 years, I wasn't always on fire for God, but I never lost the posture of, okay, God, I've sinned. And I would sin and I would cry. I would cry. That's how I knew. By the way, I'm not lukewarm. By the way, there's something convicting me. God is within me and I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah.
What's your observation of how young people are approaching faith today? Because I think I said it previously on this show that I'm seeing two different things. I'm seeing a revival where a lot of young people are actually forcing older people to question their faith. Yeah. Because they're so rooted, but also relatable. Yeah. But on the other hand, there's a lot of people, as Alex said, who are turning away. Speak to young people and what you're observing about young people and faith, especially in Kenya.
So what I would say is, I think young people are curious. There's a lot of curiosity. There's a lot of hunger for knowledge. Like, people want to know, is there a God? If there is a God, what is he like? What's his name? What does he stand for? Do I believe in those same things? So there's a lot of curiosity. People are, especially I feel like with the Gen Zs, I'm not a Gen Z. I wish I was.
Are you a zillennial?
When you were Gen Z.
When you were a Gen Z. Once upon a time. You're a zillennial.
Yeah, I'm like close to the border. I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah, close to the border. But I think especially for Gen Zs, young people, younger people, we're still young, younger people are looking for identity. If anything, they're looking for identity. They're looking for, okay, who is Sharon? who am I? Where did I come from? What do I stand for? What's my purpose on earth? What are all of these things? So there's a lot of different things that they are going into. They're going to, what is it called? The stars and the moon and the astrology. So they are going into astrology. I'm a Cancer, I'm a this, I'm a that. I would not advocate for that. They're going into different things because they are looking for identity. They are looking for all of these things. And you see that the difference with our God is that he's not someone we can see. He's not a God that we can see. He's, faith is, we spoke about faith earlier. Faith is hope for things, things hoped for, not seen. We hope for him. We have faith in him, but we don't see him. So because these other things are tangible, you can see the moon, you can see the stars, you can see the crystals, you can see all of these things. They are going into such things or just completely away from God into atheism because they are like, I can't see this God that you guys say exists. However, there's also now this other part that people are debunking religion for themselves, which I have also done for myself because religion is a man-made construct. Religion men made that up, right? And then we just follow those constructs, right? But there's also a place for relationship, and that's what God cares for. Because in the Bible, the Pharisees were very religious. They knew the word. They could recite for you from chapter A to chapter Z, but their hearts were not yielded to God. They did not, when they saw Jesus right in front of them, and they couldn't believe that he was the Son of God because he didn't look how they expected him to look, or he didn't come from the area they thought that the Messiah would come from, right? So, and
he was not one of them.
And he wasn't one of them as well. He wasn't on their side. He was just this random carpenter's son, right? So there's a little bit of both, and I feel like when you're in trying to debunk religion for yourself, you will find answers, and I hope you find the answers in relationship because that's where true intimacy with God exists.
I agree. That's really well said. What's happening is actually a beautiful thing. I think it's the best thing. Faith should be personal, should be individual, should be what you feel, not what you are told, not what you have read, not what you've heard. It's what you feel, right? It's something that you believe. And if you just look at, I was just writing down in the notes when I asked you the question, the first interaction with church, and the story that you gave is a story for almost everybody. Yeah. You are taken to church by your parents by force. You're told to go there. As a young child, you are just going to church because, church is what we do on Sunday, right? And then as an adolescent, now you start having more use for church. Yeah. It's a social space. It's a place where, we meet, we congregate, and youth pastors have known that and used that very well. So you will find two groups of people at that adolescent stage, those that are now immersing themselves more into faith, and those that are using church for these other things, the social aspect. Then you become a young adult. And as a young adult now, it's not about that you have to go to church because I've got to meet someone. I have very many other places I can meet someone without anyone questioning me. Yeah. It's not that Sunday, it's school, bell rings, get out of the dorm, you have to go to church. No, it's your decision. It's you. Now people now start questioning and start asking. They get that curiosity now comes into play. And that's why we are seeing very many people at that age, 20s into 30s, they're in that phase of questioning and asking, this faith thing, by the way, you guys have been talking about.
What is it?
What is it?
Yeah.
This good. You're telling me a guy just came out of nowhere. A guy walks, he's a carpenter, knows nothing about fishing, goes and finds a fisherman, a seasoned fisherman, and tells the fisherman, go and take your nets there. Unafikiri mimi ni wazimu? I'm not a madman. Peter, you start questioning those kind of things, and you're like, and it progresses, but at some point, I think many people will come full circle. So I don't think that we are seeing more and more atheists. They may call themselves atheists, but I think they are agnostic. They're at that age where they're just questioning. They have not said, no, there's no God. They're like,
I don't know.
I'm skeptical about this whole thing. I still need to get more information. I need some tangible proof in one way or the other, and they'll find it, and they'll get it. This is a new structure of our society that we have, other than the old structure of society where things were structured. Church was not just a place that you go and meet. Church played a critical role in people's lives. Yeah. still in some very many places in Shags, where there's a structure, you will bring your children to church, we have to baptize your child, and you have to bring them for catechism and all, and that is because it's adding to your bonga points here. You will get into the church register, you're doing contributions and tithe, you will get into the church register here, you're getting your bonga points. So that when these children, now it's time for them to get married, you have a right now to redeem your bonga points by calling the pastor to come and officiate their wedding. Kama huko kwa kitabu, you're not getting married in my church, you know? You die, somebody in your family dies, they're not being married by the church. And that ostracizes you in the community. So people are now forced into going into church and to find all these things because of the benefits that come with church. Society has changed.
Yeah.
All those things are not there. And that's why we are seeing a lot more people
questioning.
But I think full circle, you're going through that age where you're asking, at some point you will settle, you'll be like, okay, I didn't get the answer, yes, but I also didn't get the proof, no. So I will on the side of caution. And
I will seek.
And because I was taught this by my parents, I'll just go back to this is here, and you'll interact with faith.
Yeah.
I think there's absolutely no problem with questioning. Again, we were not taught that we can question any sort of authority. Because, you know, for a lot of people, God is an authority. And how we were raised, we were told God is an authority. You do not question authority. You don't question your parents. You don't question the law. You don't question authority. But God also desires relationship. When you're in a relationship, you ask questions. You ask questions to your partner. You ask questions to your friends. You ask questions with your parents as well. So with God, I would say question, but question with God. Don't question by yourself. Figure it out with God. Even till now, I have times when I read the Bible and things don't make sense to me. I'm like, God, why did you do this? Why did you allow this? Question with God. That's what I would say. And surely you will find answers.
Do you think?
No, go ahead. No, I'm just gonna come back with some feedback. But yeah, do you think?
Do you think that those who are in faith now, you and those in the religious leaders, have a role to play in helping people to get to find answers that they're looking for?
Of course.
And are they playing that role?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think to the full capacity in which they should be playing the role. Again, a lot of us were just finding answers for ourselves. Me, when I gave my life to Christ, I didn't do it in church. I didn't do it in a pulpit. I didn't do an altar call. I did it in my bedroom floor in my parents' house alone at night. And then after that, I didn't have any sort of discipleship. I didn't have anyone telling me, okay, so now that you've given your life to Christ, this is what happens. No, I just went on YouTube and I searched sermons and I started watching sermons. Every day at work, I would sit and I would watch multiple sermons, just trying to understand, okay, this God that I experienced yesterday, who is he? And then I found my own answers. So yes, religious leaders definitely have a part to play, but I think they're so involved in so many other things that they're not giving attention to this. So now people are trying to find answers in other places.
That's a really good way of summarizing it. Like, they're not paying attention to their core role.
Exactly.
And so while they're busy either politicking, which a lot of them do, people are like, oh, well, I guess the guy that I was thinking was going to help me navigate it, now let me find somewhere else. There's two things that come to mind when I think about the struggle with faith. Number one is living boldly, right? Some people feel like, I remember saying this once, I was like, I don't want to let God down by being a poor ambassador. Meaning, you are not devoid of sin, so it's likely that you can backslide. And some people fear coming out boldly because they're like, well, I mean, I know I love him, I know I love God, and I know I want to live boldly, but I also don't want to embarrass him. So living boldly, I want you to speak to how, I guess, to transform, or how some people are living very boldly. You're living boldly through faith. A lot of people are like on the periphery. They're like, I want to scream and shout, but am I equipped to scream and shout? The other thing that came to mind was, it's gone, but I think that one. Because living boldly and not living boldly, there's also a difference there, right?
Yeah, for sure. I saw a TikTok that said, this is how you know I'm a zillennial, TikTok. Love TikTok. I saw a TikTok that said that Jesus didn't die on the cross for me to deny him, or for me to be embarrassed of him, or for me to be shy about him. he wasn't shy about me when he died on the cross. He died for me boldly. So it's also for me, it's my responsibility actually to represent him just as boldly as he represented me on the cross when he died for my sins. So I've definitely been guilty of not living boldly for Christ, feeling insufficient, feeling unworthy. I've definitely had I've been a Moses for a really long time where I'm just like, God, but why me? Me, I can't even speak well, and all of these things. But then it gets to a point where you're just like, it's so much. There's a lot of people who are looking for answers, and you might be the person that pushes them to their answer, but yet you're shy about it. Because even me, when I was looking for answers, I watched, like I said, I watched YouTubes, I watched all of those things. If those guys didn't stand there and speak to me, I would have never gotten those answers. So I owe it not just to myself and Christ, I owe it to other people. And that's purpose, because purpose is not about you. Purpose is about serving other people, being of service to other people. So I leave my shyness at home. By the way, in my house, I'm shy, I'm quiet. But outside, when it's about Jesus, you can't be shy. You can't be quiet. He wasn't shy.
The camera goes on like this.
Yeah.
When a mic mbele yako,
Yeah.
hivi, wewe ni kama politician.
Exactly. Because Jesus was not shy when he died for me. So,
Yeah. I think the people who made me start listening again, there's a lot of new, I mean, even besides yourself, there's the Jackie Hill Perrys and all these people who are just so bold, paka they even disrupt the church. Because you're saying some other truths and you're talking about things that people are going through. Divorce, separation, grief, trauma, mental health. I think that new, I don't know if I can call it wave, but I think that helps because you humanize. Otherwise, before you're just like, I cannot relate to you. And she once said, a lot of what people say, or let's say people who have a platform, if you're not speaking to somebody's lived experience, not only will you upset them, you'll just turn them away completely, which I think is what Prosperity Gospel did. I think what I'm finding now is people come when they're still a bit broken, and that helps because they're like, I'm divorced with 3 kids.
yeah.
I know I'm here.
You belong.
But I belong and you belong, just like I do. That started to help me because I'm like, okay. Because others, you really feel like that person who is sidelined. And now even churches have like divorce
people
care.
like you, we have a left side corner. It's for people like you. It's for people you can't be in the choir actually. What kind of? There's a lady who's also like being bold. I think she's a lady pastor. I see a lot of her videos on social media from SDA. And she has a lot of messages she speaks to young people. She talks very boldly about, whether it's sexuality, whether it's about marriage, whether it's about, living together. She speaks. There's a time when she was actually even, I think, suspended by the church. And people came out boldly and said, no, but she is speaking to us. Come on. And she was reinstated. I don't remember her name. I'm sure our fixers will tell us who she is on social media. But there are many of them who are saying, Oscar Wawel says, lukewarm Christianity is the lingo for Gen Zs. Sunday tuko in spirit, ikifika Tuesday hapo mood ni kwani konini.
So Gen Z peke yao, surely. That's profiling, sir. Millennials also lukewarm.
It's the lingo. It's the lingo. The lingo, the use of the word lukewarm. Others also have it. It's just that they don't have a word for it, lukewarm. Watching from Tyring Bill in Eldoret is Moses. And there's somebody here. He has given him, they have given themselves a name in Arabic, and I can't read Arabic. So the name, whatever, it's not about a church or about mosque. It's not about religion. It's about humanity. Right? It's about humanity. So it says religion and all. It's not the focus on, hey, I'm a Christian. But if it starts from humanity, then you already have.
But the humanity needs to be
the higher being in you. Remember even yesterday with the prof when we were talking about at the heart of it all
is your humanity.
Is your humanity, your value, what you stand for, then that is then anchored on religion. Because you can come here and say about religion, but if it's not manifesting in how you behave as a human being, you're jita Christian, jita Muslim, jita Hindu, jita whatever you want to call yourself. You
wanted to respond something. There's a lot of feedback by there, but we'll get to it.
Oh, no, I just wanted to say I love what you said about humanizing Christianity and even just what you've said about humanity as well. Again, there's just a lot of do's and don'ts and rules, and when you go to church and you listen to a pastor, you can't really see him as a human. We just see him as a guy who comes and he speaks the word, but you don't know their struggles, you don't know any of these things. So I love the new age and the new wave of people who are just human beings, just a girl or just a guy. We're just talking about Christ and we're sharing our humanity. So I really
love it.
that.
And some of them even, they speak and they sit with people who don't even believe. And then they try and just have a conversation without judgment. Yeah. And I think without knowing it, you make it, I don't want to say easier, but you make it make more sense to people. Otherwise, it seems very...
Far.
I don't belong because I'm this profile of a person. I don't belong because I've been through this, therefore, Nikona Mark Kaalama that's saying you're not the profile of a faith-based person. But I'm seeing a lot of disruptors, and then it forces the church as it is to also ask themselves, are we checking ourselves?
Yeah.
And I think that's important. The feedback now, Alex is still... There's so much feedback. Alex is saying, have you guys noticed in Islam, we never hear that someone is born again, that I've given my life to Allah for them. Once you're born Muslim, that is it. Okay, let's put a pin on that. The SDA preacher is called Makoro Elizabeth already. And you said our fixers would say, Janet, are you a psychology coach?
Wewe sasa. Jibu yo swali.
They've even asked again, are you a broadcaster or a psychology coach? No. I think I've just learned to be very open with my flaws and questions.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the difference. The shame, I'll bring it with me, I'll leave it behind, but I just stopped trying to platform as everything is okay. No,
it's not.
I come undone. There's videos where I'm just like, guys, I've dealt with shame and trauma. This is how it is. So who's asking that? She's called, this is Paul Minor.
It's Almarufu. Staki mapepe.
Yeah. Staki mapepe. There must be order, a clear path to God. Somebody else is saying, I'm from church and supporting it with Matthew 18:20. Please give us a Bible quote why we shouldn't attend church. Finally, Ian Mooley, I left church. I never left God. The church, quote unquote, sold out and became a house of business. Case in point, in the morning, you guys just read for us billions that churches made in 2024. I like that this conversation is eliciting a lot of feedback. I think church and faith and religion are always, they're either very divisive, very contentious, or very uniting. Do you ever find yourself in situations where you're like, hey, hapa kuna kamoto? Where people are like, Sharon, no. And maybe you're sitting around a table. How do you navigate that?
It's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have all the answers. Again, I'm a human being with limited capacity. Only God has all the answers that we need. Even the answer about Islam and why, they don't have any sort of, I give my life to Allah and all of that. I don't have the answers for that. You know what I mean? I don't know anything about, I haven't read the Quran. I don't know, right? So what I am able to speak about, I can speak about it. What is beyond me is beyond me. It's just take it up with God. And I also pray that whatever answers they are seeking, that God will answer them in one way or another, because he does desire to answer our questions. Like, he gave us these brains and our minds and the way they work. He designed them. He knew that we were going to be curious, to ask questions and all of these things. So kama sijui na kama najua, I will say. How
do you speak to, I wanted to ask before I forget, don't forget your question. I forget, that's what I want to ask.
Yeah,
it's a comment. Tithing and offering, that again brings a lot of contention. People saying, no, those are just businesses. We know that faith also has a place for giving. But where is it that, and you've kind of alluded to it, that leaders are not doing what they're supposed to. How do you speak to somebody who is jaded from giving? Maybe the church they're going to is a good church, but they're like, I'm going to give you the money and I don't know what you're going to do with it. How do you speak to somebody like that? Have you ever faced that conviction yourself?
For sure. I definitely had issues with tithing. I didn't understand, okay, God, why should I give? And I also, these same questions everyone has for, okay, the church is a business, people are making money and all of these things. I also had those same concerns as well. Again, and that kept me away from church for a really long time until I found the church that I am in now. But in scripture, it says that we need to give 10% of our earnings to God, like to give it back to the storehouse. The storehouse is basically where someone comes and stores things. See, I think all of us, like, we have like a castor in your house, right? So you give 10% to the storehouse. The storehouse, in God's eyes, is the church for him. For him, the church is the storehouse. So give your 10%. And it actually says you're stealing from God if you don't give your 10%. I give because I know that God gave me this money. God gave me this opportunity. Like, again, like I said, I'm a human being with limited capacity. I can work as hard as I want to work, but there are some places that God will take me that no one else could have taken me. There are some rooms he'll bring me into, them, some opportunities that even my education is limited. You know what I mean? But there are opportunities I get, I'm like, this one see me. And it's not me, that my abilities, my whatever, it's not me who gave this thing to me. So I always give back because I was given. So that's just my understanding of it. God gave me, and all he's asking is just 10% of everything he's given me. I'm willing to give that. What if now he asked me, give me everything? And then, you know what I mean? So 10%, fine, take it. Again, it's very selfish of us to be, again, selfish with our abilities, our intelligence, the things God has given us, our money, when it's not ours. We're just stewards. Even this body, none of us brought ourselves on earth. None of us formed ourselves in our mother's womb. None of us did that. We were brought here by God. So I give back to the God that gave me and brought me here on earth.
Sharon,
so,
how do you know that what you've given is actually going to God?
So now that's the thing. I understand that not everything you give is going to be used correctly, right? So actually the way church is supposed to do is that it's supposed to help orphans, it's supposed to help widows, it's supposed to help needy. In fact, we shouldn't be having homeless people on the street, because churches, exactly, churches should be, I think even like in America or in other places, churches usually during Monday to Friday, or even like sometimes they open their doors for homeless people to come and sleep. You know what I mean? There are churches I know that have like a specific outreach program where they go and they feed all the homeless people in a certain area, or they take up orphan kids and they do all of these things. That's what, even in the biblical perspective in Acts, when they were founding the first church, that's what they used to do. They used to feed orphans, widows, and all of these things. So the church has lost that. It's lost its foundation. That's what God intended it to be. So my thing is, I give. Whatever you do with it, you do with it. Again, your judgment is in heaven. But I gave. I did what I was supposed to do.
I like the reminder.
So how
that you
about
just
then
issued,
giving directly, instead of giving through this vehicle that, you know, you'll say that there'll be now more judgment, condemnation and all, like going directly and saying, I'm giving, instead of putting money into this church, and then the church is supposed to be, you know, consolidating and making it bigger, better. And you can see, bigger, better is bigger car, bigger for... How about you give that? So would it be considered, would you still consider it tithing if you went straight to somebody that you found that is needy and you're seeing that they're struggling in paying school fees for their child, and you say, I'm going to take this up?
So there's a difference between tithing and giving. Tithing is the 10%. That one you do. Giving is giving out of your own heart. You saw someone in need and you decided to give them. You go to a children's home, you feed them. You see someone homeless, you help them. Someone who needs school fees, you help them. And as Christians, it's not just up to the church, by the way. The church, yes, is the one that has the mandate for that. But even us as Christians, we should be helping those people. And I love how... Muslims are a lot more giving than we are. So we are failing in that department. We need to give a lot more. So there's a difference. Give, yes, but tithe
is
different
specific to church and God.
Specific to the storehouse.
Even Hindus are very good at giving. Yoto says, Mimi kanisa siendi, to be honest, but I believe in God and I pray every day. I think it's more about who you are as a human being and how you treat others.
Everyone is on their journey.
There are many people who say, okay, so niende kanisa, do I have to go to church?
It's up
for me to be a judge, to be a Christian.
Iko kwa Biblia.
So the thing is, I was also like that. Me, I didn't go to church for 7 years. I did not care. But there's a place for community. There's worshiping God alone, which is absolutely great, because there's two sides of it. There are now people who are Sunday Christians. They are Christians on Sunday only. When they go to church, after wametoka kanisa, hakuna hata stories za God until next Sunday. So there's two sides. So there are the Sunday Christians, and then there's the Christians who are just like me, church, I don't want any part of it. But God does instruct us in the Bible to share our faith in communal spaces. It's important for us to go fellowship with other believers. When you find a good, proper church that is rooted in the word and is not taking advantage of people, there you find solace. You find people who pray for you. You find people who cover you in prayer. Like, you find people, if you're going through something, they're the ones holding you down more than your friends, more than your family. You find pastors who can cover you in prayer, who can fast with you, who can do all of these things with you. So there is a place for church. We shouldn't abandon it completely.
Some of the things that are making young people not go to church is those things. When you come in, you have to immerse yourself fully.
No, you don't.
Like, see, I just practice my faith, with one leg and one. This thing is
slow walk me is what you're saying.
Yeah. But
because you tell me come to church, and then you'll come to church, and then there'll be prayer service here, there'll be meeting tomorrow, there'll be this and that, and you feel like, if I don't do these things, then I'm not measuring up to the others.
No. Yeah.
Something needs to be done to reduce that pressure, man.
Yeah, for sure. I understand the pressure. I completely understand the pressure. But again, you're going there for God. There happens to be community around you, but your eyes need to be set on God. God, I'm here to worship you. I'm here to serve you. I'm here because I'm seeking you. So I get the pressure, but it's just like wobble through it. Like, you don't have to walk and you're confident. Wobble through it. Like, this Christianity thing, it's a journey. It's not perfect. It has so many ebbs and flows. Just wobble through it. You don't have to do all these structured things.
And some churches are very gentle about it. I think a lot of churches, not a lot, let me rephrase that. Some churches are starting to hear what people are saying.
Yeah.
Which is why they've introduced there's churches now that have said, we have a special session for single moms. You would never see that before. Or dads, or single dads, or people who are going through separation. That, for me, is a response to what society is going through.
Yeah.
And I think the few that are doing that are answering that question, because you go to the main service and there's a certain pressure you feel if you don't belong. But what they're saying is, you come, and then on top of that, we'll walk you through your current situation.
Yeah.
And I applaud such, because you're making somebody feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
But I really like what you've spoken to. I think this is a challenge to churches, is that remember what your mandate is to open your place up to people who don't have access, to people who don't have homes. Thank you for that reminder. I think sometimes when you're co-opted by power and privilege, you forget that the reason why society, some of them don't have food, don't have shelter, doesn't mean you can help everyone, but it means you can intervene and say, I'm opening this space up on a Saturday. If you feel like you need shelter. I think we've forgotten that.
We have.
And I feel like you've planted a reminder. I wanted to ask two questions before I forget. One was Best Kept Secrets Pod. Which episode stood out with you the most as a podcast, as you were hosting? Which one were you like, hey, this one? Or maybe one of your favorite ones? And what was the second one I was going to ask you? This is why I should write things down and have fish oil for my memory. But let's start with that one first.
Which episode?
Thanks, Latif. I'm right here. I can hear you.
Which episode stood out to me the most? I feel like every episode is special in its own different way. But I had an episode with Nyawera, Nyawera Gashugi. And we spoke about how she lost her mom. I think her mom had cancer. She lost her mom a couple of years ago. And the way she spoke about her loss and her grief gave me such a different understanding of it, and I quote it till today. And she said for her, she felt like God, for her mom dying, was God healing her. And I was just like, how can you see death as healing? And she was just like, her mom was in a lot of pain. She had cancer, stage 4, I think. And when her mom died, she was just like, God has healed her. Because when we think of healing, we think that, you walk out of the hospital and you're okay and you go back to living life. But for her, she feels like death healed her mom and God healed her through dying. So I found that perspective so powerful, and I don't know if I have it within me to also say that, but I really liked that. Yeah.
Wow, that's very powerful. I've remembered what I was going to ask you, and you've had a lot of pretty powerful conversations. I think the ones you've had with Ben and Wanjiru,
yeah.
Just around grieving their loss of their first pregnancy and then coming out on the other side. Young people, and I think I want you to speak to what young people are grappling with, if we're going to speak in faith terms, with their flesh, right? Because I think society sometimes pushes a very hypersexualized version of life.
Oh, yeah.
And then suddenly here you are saying, I am choosing to not do that. Basically, I'm going against culture.
Yep.
How do you speak to somebody young who's trying to navigate that, given that maybe you were there and a lot of them are there, because then you're told you can't give into your flesh. So you have to be sober, you have to be celibate, and they're just like, but all around me, I'm seeing none of that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm alone on this journey.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? How do I find community to hold steady and say, I'm going to remain this way until such a time?
You don't do it out of your own strength. Because we don't have the strength to do it.
Our flesh is too loud.
Our flesh is loud. Our flesh shouts.
Somebody said it throws tantrums.
It throws tantrums. When you nimite something, it throws tantrums. How dare you not give me alcohol? How dare you not give me sex? Like all of these things, right? So those are things I've also struggled with for sure as well, until I just surrendered them to God. I was like, God, I've tried everything. Like, you can even lock yourself in the house because you're like, I don't even want to leave, because when I leave, the temptation is so strong. But Netflix, you open, it's everywhere. TikTok, you go, it's everywhere. Everywhere, you cannot avoid it. So because I can't avoid it, I just told God, by the way, I don't have it within me. My flesh is very strong and my spirit is weak. So I need you to strengthen me. And in our weaknesses, God is strong. Every place that we are weak, God is strong. And God likes to come in to areas that we have opened up to him. If you don't open it up to him, he's not going to force, because we have free will. You have to be the one to say, okay, God, I'm really struggling with alcohol. I don't want to drink anymore. Help me. What do I do? Yes, I can resist temptation, but help me. Strengthen me. Strengthen my spirit to be stronger than my flesh. And he will. And he will.
He will, even if you falter. I like how somebody put it once. They said, always think of conviction, not condemnation.
Yes.
Because people feel condemned. They're like, I
feel
slipped,
guilty.
I backslid, I went back to him.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years. I still keep going back to him or her. I still keep going back to the drink.
Yeah.
How do you now begin to decipher when, conviction, and God is a God of graciousness, but also that there's a price, quote unquote, for sin?
Yeah. There's always a price. There's always consequence. For whatever action you do, good or bad, there's consequences that will come out of it, right? So my thing is, always go back to God. You go back to alcohol 5 times, go back to God 10 times. You know what I mean? Like, struggle, but go back. And I think that's the difference. I love to use this example, the difference between Peter and Judas. Judas betrayed Jesus, and so did Peter. Peter denied Jesus, right? They both acted like we were not disciples of this guy, and by the way, I don't even know this Messiah, and Judas even gave him away to the Pharisees.
He has a very good way of telling that story. That's why don't start.
He gave him away to the Pharisees, and he was crucified, right? The difference is that Judas allowed the guilt, because he felt guilt. By the way, he even returned the money. He returned the money. He felt guilty. Okay, what have I done? I've given away Jesus, and now he's being crucified. He felt the guilt. He felt the shame, and he decided to commit suicide, right? And then there's Peter. He felt guilt. He felt shame, but he went back. He went back, and there's a verse that says, when you conquer it, go back and strengthen your brothers. So that's what he did. He went back to the fold. So that's what I like to think of when I'm struggling. I'm like, okay, let me not have a Judas mindset where I go and deal with the shame and guilt by myself. Let me go deal with that shame and guilt with God. Let me go deal with the shame and guilt with my brethren, with my friends. I can't even tell my friends, by the way, guys, I'm really struggling with this thing. I need you to help me pray about it. So that's the difference. Go back. When you stumble, go back to God. You go to alcohol 5 times, you go back to God 10 times.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's helpful.
You've spoken strongly and passionately about go to church. Seek a community and just belong to that community, and the best place is church. Now, in this digital age, Sharon, you know the digital age.
Yeah.
There's virtual streaming of church services.
Yeah.
Is that doing more harm to church than good?
No, I don't think so. I think they're important. Like I said, for me, for 7 years, I didn't go to church. I used to watch sermons on YouTube, and they strengthened my faith. I learned a lot in those things. So especially, for example, like if you're living in an area, you've just moved abroad and there's no church, you haven't found a church yet, watch online. That's completely fine, right? But if you can't find a physical community to go and plug into, that's fine as well. So I think both of them have a part to play, and both of them, even now, I go to my usual church on Sunday, but Monday to Friday, I'll watch other pastors, I'll watch other sermons online in America, in wherever, yeah.
There are people who don't follow a church, they follow a pastor.
Oh. Now that's the problem. If anything, I would say that's the thing that is crippling a lot of people in terms of their faith in Kenya. And I think in Africa especially, it's a widespread problem. People are idolizing. It's not following, they're idolizing pastors. They have placed pastors above God. They think that for me to reach God, I have to go through this person. The only person you need to go through is Jesus. Jesus is the only person you need to go through to get to God, right? So pastors are human beings like you. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't pray for yourself. You have to go to a pastor to pray for you. No. The whole point of Easter and of Jesus dying on the cross for us is so that we are able to have fellowship with God. He broke the seal that was the in-between, that was between us as humans and God. So now I can go to my bedroom, to my car, in a matatu, where in the street, wherever I am, and I can talk to God directly. So I don't need a pastor for any of that. Pastors are just supposed to help me understand the word. Just help me understand, the Bible says this and this and this and this, right? That's all they're supposed to do. Pastors are human beings. They falter. They sin just like you. They're struggling just like you. If anything, if we really knew what pastors were going through, we would not idolize them the way that we idolize them. Yeah.
Wow. I think definitely I just... wilderness, there's that wilderness season. I think I just needed to be very quiet and understand. First, I was like, just understand as Janet, what is faith? Because I think maybe to Eric's point, people throw so many things at you that you get confused. What is landing? Then you also feel under-equipped, you feel overwhelmed. But I think there's something in just taking time and really taking time, because this is for the long haul. You said it's a journey. I think one of the things that frustrates people is there's no breakthrough. It's been 3 years. Sometimes it can be 20. We know people who've waited to conceive for over a decade, or people who've been waiting for a breakthrough. So I think a lot of people listening to this or watching this, those who are on, let me just say, in the wilderness, maybe they don't recognize it as such, feel like it's a bit alien, because they're like, I don't even know I don't know what you guys are saying. I don't know where you're coming from. As somebody who is in between wilderness and through the wilderness, I'm like, I get that there's a patience to it, there's a grace to it, and there's a fumbling through it, I think. And I think it's important for people to know that. Otherwise, you don't wake up and you're like, I am the perfect person of God, and my breakthrough has come, or whatever it is. I think to people who are listening and they're jaded, I think there's a process.
It's definitely a process. It's a journey. Fumble through it, wobble through it. It's not perfect. It takes, for some people, it's quick. For some people, it's 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. For other people, it's radical. It's 1 year and you're transformed. So it's completely, it's a personal journey. It's a relationship. That's what we've been trying to say the entire time we've been here, right? It's relationship. It's not about religion. It's not about the constructs. It's about relationship. So yes, you're in the wilderness now. Be in the wilderness with God. Just, sit there with him and just be like, by the way, I don't understand any of these church things. I don't understand the Bible. I don't understand any of this. All we need to do is seek. The Bible says that if you seek him and seek him with your whole heart, you'll find him. God never rejects anyone that seeks him. He never turns you away. You never go to God to be like, okay, God, what's up? And then he turns you away and is like, no, get away from me. He always, his arms are open wide, waiting for us to just seek. That's all you need to do. Yeah.
Indeed. Sharon, thank you for joining us today.
I know.
And for, just pouring yourself out to us. She is the host of the Best Kept Secrets podcast. Find it where again?
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Instagram. That's it.
Pesa ngapi?
Free. It's free of charge.
It's free to access it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sharon Mwangi, asante sana for joining us. Jano.
So much feedback.
A lot,
Hatuna time.
Soma.
Nisome?
Yeah.
Danson Sunguti, we're in this messy religious state because men want to worship God in their own way. There are a set of rules worship in the Bible and they can't be compromised. Oof, okay. He also, Victor Musheru says, if you meet a Hindu or Muslim and they realize you're aware about their beliefs, they listen to you better, you'll convince them better. So basically approaching everybody as they come and not condemning them for following a certain faith. My thoughts are, if you're going to come out as a preacher of the word, try learning about other religions so that you're able to confirm your faith and share it with boldness. What's his name? Preston Perry does that a lot. He's like, he speaks to everyone.
Yeah.
And, you know, he has to hear them. And then they just exchange thoughts about it. But I think, yeah, your conversation has elicited a lot of reaction, Sharon, and thank you for what you do, for living boldly, and just getting people to be like, "Wacha nijiongeleshe, alafu wacha ni." I invite Jesus to this conversation.
Yeah.
Then I lament, then I cry, I get lukewarm, then I go back. I think thank you for validating that whole experience. And for your podcast. Your podcast is amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Asante sana. So we're off. Back on Monday. Easter is on Sunday, right?
Easter is today, then it continues till Sunday.
Today is Friday.
Till Monday, yeah.
Monday is because it's Sunday. So anyway, mtu amesema kuweni na Pasaka Mrua, and that is huyo jamaa pendi mapepe. Staki mapepe says.
Shukran.
Who is absent? Mariam also, who's absent today, and all the fixers. Kuweni na Pasaka Mrua. Yes, indeed. Mariam has taken the Easter break. She'll be joining us on Tuesday next week, but Jano and I will be here on Monday. So we'll see you on Monday. We'll see you on the other end.
Yeah.
So you people are coming by road. You're coming by road. Be careful. Roads are very dangerous. So we'll see you on the other end.
What you like
Monday.
this?
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thank you for watching and listening. Bye.
Bye.